Well, friends, it appears that the United States is once again having 9/11 be a topic of conversation that is volleyed into the landscape. And of course, as you can guarantee, it'll never be to address the nature of what's most important surrounding this event. It'll never be to talk about the historical ramifications of what led to 9/11, nor will it be about the conspiratorial rumblings of what's going on behind the scenes that are talked about in the back channels of the internet. No, no. What we're going to do, though, is talk about how a plea negotiation very well could mean that all of the 9/11 defendants who have been found responsible for this terrorist attack, well, they're not going to be facing the death penalty, you see. And realistically, I have an issue with the death penalty because it's the state being the arbiter of who lives and who dies, and that is a dangerous precedent to set with the government. But the thing that I, again, find most remarkable about this is they'll never mention the fact of what's most important. Like, I don't know, that this all started with the United States' involvement in the Middle East in 1953 with the CIA's first operation and coup, Operation Ajax, as we overthrew and ousted the democratically elected leader, you know we care so much about democracy here in the West, of Iran. And who was that? Mohammad Mossadegh. And we installed the Shah Reza Pahlavi, and in doing so, we saw negative ramifications unfold roughly 20 to 25 years later. And what is that we saw happen? Well, under the Reagan administration, you see, it appears that the Iranian hostage crisis had unfolded. And why could that be? Well, it was in reaction to the fact of what we had done in their country by overthrowing it and establishing a pro-Western government. There are so many different possibilities that could be tackled when it comes to the fact of the media having a litany of different talking points to address surrounding 9/11, but of course, they'll never do so. Jumping in with the Associated Press, here we see plea negotiations could mean no 9/11 defendants face the death penalty, the U.S. tells families. And I can only imagine they are going to be up in arms. I expect them to be going to the press, doing interviews. I'm sure there will be a few of them that will be coming out in the coming weeks. Here we see from the Associated Press, the suspected architect of the 9/11 September 2001 attacks and his fellow defendants may never face the death penalty under plea agreements now under consideration to bring an end to their more than decade-long prosecution. The Pentagon and FBI have advised families of some of the thousands killed. The notice made in a letter that was sent to several of the families and obtained by the Associated Press comes 1.5 years later after the military prosecutors and defense lawyers began exploring a negotiated resolution to the case. So, I'm going to be honest, personally, if I'm in Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's case, I'd rather you just kill me because apparently they've been torturing him relentlessly for ages now, and rumors are that, as we see here, was Khalid Sheikh Mohammed waterboarded 183 times. Apparently, this is something that's been reported on by numerous outlets, and there's also another man who was apparently waterboarded roughly 85 to 90 times, as was reported, even by an intel officer. So there's a lot here, and it's actually genuinely insane, but you cost the lives of 2,996 people. I can't say I have sympathy for you, but I also do not believe that this is a method of achieving good information, which, as has been proven in the past, torture does not get good information because they will tell you whatever is desired so they can get the pain to stop, obviously. Here we see, jumping back in, the prosecution of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and 4 others held at the U.S. detention center in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, has been troubled by repeated delays and legal disputes, especially over the legal ramifications of the interrogation under torture that the men initially underwent while in CIA custody. No trial date has been set. The Office of the Chief Prosecutor has been negotiating and is considering entering into pretrial agreements, or PTAs, the letter said. It told the families that while no plea agreement has been finalized and may be finalized, it is possible that a PTA in this case would remove the possibility of the death penalty. And then something actually surprising happened that I didn't expect. Here we see from the AP once more, 9/11 hearings at Guantanamo Bay in upheaval after a surprise order by U.S. Defense Chief, and it's talking about Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, who effectively came in and slashed this plea deal, and he was like, nope, if anything, we're going to be making sure the death penalty still on the table, which for all of those people who lost their loved ones during 9/11, I'm sure that was something that they really appreciated, and that's specifically not something that's done under the partisan wing of the Biden administration or the Trump administration. I very much believe Lloyd Austin did this upon his own whims. Anyways, the thing that I would love to go ahead and play now, which would be something that I wish I had Harry Brown speaking himself, but it's just going to be me reading it off to you. And it's something that I think is truly quite important to pay attention to. And it's the question that we should have asked right after 9/11 happened. The question that would have had all of the crosshairs of the establishment, the Republicans and the Democrats, the independents, and everyone aimed upon you. But it's because you were saying the important thing that mattered most. You were asking the question that everyone needed to ask, but no one was willing to because they were so caught up in the propagandistic rally around the flag effect that they had no capacity to see beyond the filter of the lens of what had been placed in front of their eyes. And all they saw was that they hit us over here, so we've got to hit them over there. Despite the fact that the reason they hit us over here is because we've been consistently hitting them over there. You see what happened on 9/11. Now imagine the Middle East. Imagine 1,000 9/11s. How would we feel? How would we react? That is what people need to keep in mind when we're talking about something like this. Millions of people killed. We have spent trillions of dollars in the Middle East to have billions of dollars siphoned away by the political elite, only to see millions of innocent people slaughtered. For what? Why? Oh, for the profits of the military-industrial complex. Because as you know, we can make sure that we operate as nothing more than the performative good around the world as we spread democracy, just like we saw back in 1953, which most certainly didn't have any negative ramifications as we see down the line and only kicked the can, leading to something like 9/11. Absolutely unreal. Now let's go ahead and throw it into this marvelous piece by Harry Brown that was put out the day after 9/11, 9/12/2001. When will we learn? The terrorist attacks against America comprise a horrible tragedy, but they shouldn't be a surprise. It is well known that in war the first casualty is truth, that during any war truth is forsaken for propaganda, but sanity was a prior casualty. It was the loss of sanity that led to the war in the first place. Our foreign policy has been insane for decades. It was only a matter of time until Americans would have to suffer personally for it. It is a terrible tragedy of life that the innocent so often have to suffer for the sins of the guilty. When will we learn that we cannot allow our politicians to bully the world without someone bullying back eventually? President Bush has authorized continued bombing of innocent people in Iraq. President Clinton bombed innocent people in the Sudan, Afghanistan, Iraq, and Serbia. President Bush Sr. invaded Iraq and Panama. President Reagan bombed innocent people in Libya and invaded Grenada, and on it goes. Did we think that the people who lost their families and friends and property in all of that destruction would love America for what happened? When will we learn that violence always begets violence? Teaching lessons. Supposedly, Reagan bombed Libya to teach Muammar al-Gaddafi a lesson about terrorism, but shortly thereafter, a Pan Am plane was destroyed over Scotland and our government tried to convince the world it was Libyans who did it. When will we learn that teaching someone a lesson never teaches them anything but resentment, that it only inspires the recipient to greater acts of defiance? How many times on Tuesday did we hear someone describe the terrorist attacks as cowardly acts, but as misguided and despicable as they were anything but cowardly? The people who committed them knowingly gave their lives for whatever stupid beliefs they held, but what about the American presidents who order bombings of innocent people, while the presidents remain completely insulated from any danger? What would you call their acts? When will we learn that forsaking truth and reason in the heat of battle almost always assures that we will lose the battle? Losing our last freedoms. And now, as sure as night follows day, we will be told we must give up more of our freedoms to avenge what never should have happened in the first place. When will we learn that it makes no sense to give up our freedoms in the name of freedom? What to do? What should be done? First of all, stop the hysteria. Stand back and ask, how could this have happened? Ask how a prosperous country isolated by two oceans could have so embroiled itself in other people's business that someone would want to do us harm. Even sitting in the middle of Europe, Switzerland isn't beset by terrorist attacks because the Swiss mind their own business. Second, resolve that we won't let our leaders use the occasion to commit their own terrorist attacks upon more innocent people, foreign and domestic, that will inspire more terrorist attacks in the future. Third, find a way with enforceable constitutional limits to prevent our leaders from ever again provoking this kind of anger against America. Patriotism. There are those who will say this article is unpatriotic and un-American, and that this is not the time to question our country or our leaders. When will we learn that without freedom and sanity, there is no reason to be patriotic? One of the greatest pieces ever written in American literature, I truly hold it up there with the Declaration of Independence, because the bravery that it took to stand there atop your principles and the brass balls one is required to wield to be willing to write something like that on 9/12/2001, the day after the towers have fallen, truly shows a level of principle that we could all only hope to aspire to. I'm going to go ahead and call it there. I hope you were able to learn something from that, one of the greatest pieces of American literature. Thank you for watching. Thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section down below. Stay lovely, stay great, and most importantly, as always, tell someone you love them. Peace out.